Mara never liked the bathroom mirror in her apartment. Not because it was old, though it was. The silver backing had started to peel in places, turning parts of her reflection into foggy patches like breath that never cleared. And not because the frame was crooked, though it definitely was, no matter how many times she adjusted it. No. What bothered her was simpler. It felt like the mirror paid attention. Tonight, it felt worse. The power had flickered twice already, humming like the building was exhaling through its concrete lungs. Outside, rain tapped the window in frantic little fingers, too fast, too constant, like something was trying to get her attention. Mara wiped the fog from the mirror. With her palm, her reflection blinked back. But something was off. Very off, her reflection. Eyes were red-rimmed, tear-streaked, breathing harder than she. She leaned closer. Her reflection leaned closer too, but its expression wasn't hers. Her own face looked tense, tired, confused. But the reflection looked scared. Mara's breath hitched. Okay, no, I'm just overtired. She touched her cheek. Her reflection touched her cheek. A beat late, a full second behind. A cold gust crawled under her skin. She stepped back, pulse climbing fast. The building groaned again. A light in the hallway flickered. The hum of the old radiator deepened, turning into a low rumble. She wiped the mirror again, just to make sure her eyes weren't playing games. Her reflection didn't wipe. It stared at her, wide-eyed, trembling, chest rising and falling like someone trapped under ice. Mara's throat tightened. What's wrong with you? Her reflection mouthed something, a shaky whisper of lips. Slow, deliberate. Run, the word wasn't hers. Her lips stayed perfectly still. A breath of warmth puffed against the back of Mara's neck. She spun, nothing there. When she turned back to the mirror, her reflection's eyes weren't entirely human anymore. The right one glowed faint gold. Faint, but unmistakably wrong. A color living things didn't wear. Her stomach folded in on itself. No, 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 no. Her reflection pressed its hands against the other side of the glass, palms trembling, breath fogging the mirror in frantic bursts. Not hers, not synced, not safe. Mara backed up until she hit the sink. Her reflection was crying now, one half-human tear sliding down a cheek that wasn't hers. And, like a second pulse beneath the horror, something else was happening. The skin along the reflection's jaw twitched. A pulse, a ripple, a thin line cracking open as though something inside was stretching the bone. Mara whispered, terrified, "Stop. Please stop." Her reflection shook her head. Then her reflection's right canine tooth began to push downward, pressing against the gum line, lengthening into something sharp, ivory, predatory. Mara clapped her hand over her mouth. Her reflection did not. Instead, it looked straight into her, not through her, not parallel to her. The golden eye brightened, the jaw cracked again, and her reflection whispered a single, shuddering breath. "It's starting. Out here." Mara's knees buckled. What's starting? The reflection's breath fogged faster. Faster, faster. The golden eye widened in terror. Not at Mara. At something behind Mara. The apartment darkened. The lights stuttered. The radiator groaned. Mara turned slowly, dread sliding like cold mercury through her chest. Nothing. But when she looked back, her reflection was gone. Not faded, not 4GGED, gone. The mirror showed the bathroom behind her, the shower, the towel rack, the doorway. Everything except her. Her reflection had stepped out, or stepped away. Mara stumbled back as a low, guttural sound vibrated the pipes in the walls, a sound halfway between a growl and a breath. She grabbed the counter for balance, heart slamming against her ribs, her pulse climbing into panic territory. Then she saw it, a smear of golden light spreading slowly across her forearm beneath the skin, glowing faintly like someone had pressed a hot crescent against her flesh. Her voice shook. No, how can it be on me too? The light pulsed once, hard, her bones ached in response. Mara's breath shattered. Somewhere, deep inside the apartment, behind the walls, behind the pipes, behind the place where her reflection had vanished, something exhaled, long, slow, hungry. And Mara realized the one thing she had desperately hoped wasn't true. Her reflection wasn't warning her about the mirror. It was warning her about herself. The apartment hallway had never felt long before. Now it stretched in front of Mara like a dim, narrowing throat. The lights flickered, not in random bursts, but in a rhythm, a pulse. The same pulse crawling beneath her skin. Her forearms still glowed with that faint crescent of gold, heat threading through her veins in slow, insistent waves. Every few seconds it pulsed harder, like something inside was trying to signal her, or escape. She staggered back from the bathroom doorway, keeping her eyes on the mirror just long enough to confirm what she wished she hadn't seen. Her reflection did not return. The mirror showed the room behind her perfectly, cleanly, but it showed nothing of her, not even her shadow. She pressed a shaking hand to her chest. This isn't real. This isn't. A soft sound shuddered through the walls, not the growl from before. A footstep inside the walls. Mara's breath collapsed in her throat. Her eyes darted to the drywall where a hairline crack now ran horizontally like something had dragged a claw beneath the surface. The lights flickered again. The crescent mark on her arm flared in answer. She slammed her hand over it, wincing. Stop, please stop. Another footstep. Clues. Mara backed down the hallway until she hit her bedroom doorway. The second the doorframe touched her back, the warmth in her arm spread into her shoulder, her ribs crawling like wildfire under skin. She gasped and doubled over. Her bones ached with a deep internal pressure, as though her skeleton were adjusting itself by millimeters. She squeezed her eyes shut. No, I'm not changing. I'm not. The pressure faded, but the glowing crescent dimmed too. Pulsing slower, almost disappointed, Mara's phone buzzed on the nightstand. A stupid, normal sound. A lifeline. She snatched it desperately, screen lighting her trembling face. A text from her sister. You okay? Power's out on my side of town. Call me if you're freaked out. God. She wanted to call her, to tell someone what she saw, to ask if she remembered anything weird about their family. But another message arrived before she could type. Are you alone? A chill crawled up Mara's spine, another vibration. Don't look in any mirrors tonight. Her heartbeat jammed itself into her throat. She typed fast. Why? What do you know? But the message didn't send. The room flickered dark, then light, then dark again, and every flicker made her forearm glow a little brighter. The sigil pulsing like a heartbeat trapped under a ribcage. Mara stumbled to the window to catch her breath. Rain blurred the city lights into silver streaks. The parking lot below shimmered in puddles. For a moment, one agonizing moment, she saw her reflection in the glass. Except it wasn't her reflection. Her mirror self stood in the rain-soaked window, hair plastered to her face, one eye glowing gold, jaw hanging wrong, breaths fogging the imaginary glass from inside. The reflection raised its hand. Mara froze her reflection, slowly pressed its palm against the glass. A warning, a plea, a countdown. Mara backed away, hands shaking. No, stay away. The reflection's lips moved. It's you. Her arm flared white hot. Mara screamed and dropped to her knees. Her bones weren't cracking, not fully, but beginning to loosen, like screws slowly turning in their sockets. She gripped the carpet, breath stuttered, eyes wide in pain. Through the agony, she felt something horrifying. Her senses sharpened. She heard the distant elevator doors clanging 6 floors below. She heard a dog barking across the street. She heard the wet scrape inside her wall, right beside her thigh. Something moved behind the drywall. Something big. Something breathing in sync with her glowing mark. Mara scrambled backward until her spine hit the closet door. The drywall bulged, just a little, like something pressed its hand against the inside. A low, pained whimper echoed from behind the wall. Not monstrous, not predatory, human. Mara's single quotes breath hitched. Me, because the sound, the voice, the cry, it sounded like hers, but twisted, distorted, strained as if her mirror self was trapped inside the walls, begging for release. She crawled forward on shaking hands. Please, please, tell me what's happening. Her reflection's voice echoed again from behind the drywall. You're changing, too slow. Mara's heart punched her throat. Her skin burned. Her eyesight blurred in waves, sharp, then dull, then sharp again. Her reflection spoke once more, this time with a sound that split Mara's soul. A growl dot from behind the wall, from the mirrored doppelganger, from a version of her further along in the transformation than she was. The drywall cracked, dust rained, a clot long, black, glistening pierced through the paint. Mara screamed, but not just in fear, in recognition, because her human arm twitched with the same motion. Her claw, her future. Her reflection wasn't hunting her. Her reflection was becoming her before she did. The claw tip, emerging from her wall, twitched once, twice, as if testing the air, tasting it. Dust trickled down the drywall in pale rivers. The apartment felt smaller, thicker, like the walls were breathing along with her. Mara pressed back against the closet door, fingers digging into the wood. No, please. The claw slipped back inside. Relief washed through her, sharp, quick, until she realized what that meant. It wasn't retreating. It was making room. The crack widened with a dry, brittle sound. A palm pushed through her palm, but furred along the back, bone ridges visible underneath. Then another, both hands gripping the inside of the wall like a creature climbing out of a grave. Mara's stomach dropped. This wasn't imagination. This wasn't hallucination. This was her reflection trying to cross over. A mirror self pulled its face through the split in the drywall, half human, half wolf, skin stretched too tight across cheekbones, golden iris blazing like a lantern caught in fog. But the worst part wasn't the snarling jawline forming on the reflection's face. The worst part was the expression behind it. Pain, fear, urgency. It looked at her like someone drowning, reaching for the surface. Mara shook her head violently. Stop, you're not real. The reflection's jaw cracked mid-scream. A horrible, half-false sound spilled out. Help! The drywall split wider, snapping studwood like ribs cracking open. Mara couldn't breathe. She tried to crawl backward, but her body didn't move right. Her legs trembled with spasms, tiny pulses that weren't hers, as if her muscles were receiving commands from something else. Her bones ached, her forearm throbbed. The glowing crescent mark pulsed in time with the reflection clawing its way out. Mara grabbed her arm, nails digging into her skin. Why are you doing this to me? Her reflection froze, head half emerged from the wall. Golden eye burning, Then it whispered a single word that cracked the world open. Not me. Her stomach turned to ice. The reflection wasn't causing the change. It wasn't the threat, it was the symptom. Her own transformation, accelerating elsewhere, in mirrors, in reflections, in parallel surfaces, where her wolf self could move faster. Freer, the reflections strained further through the split. Bone popped, fur bristled. Its shoulders forced the drywall outward in a grotesque bloom. Behind the reflection self, darkness churned inside the wall, not hollow space, but a moving depth, like fog that breathed, like shadows with intent. The apartment lights flickered. Again her arm flared. CRRK-CRRK. Krakmara screamed as her radius bone shifted just a centimeter, but enough to make her vision white out. Her wrist bent wrong, then corrected itself, tendons twitching with a feral, involuntary flex. Her reflection snarled, not at her, but in pain of its own, like the two of them were connected nerve to nerve. Mara gasped, "Are you me?" The reflection's head jerked with desperate urgency. Its lips barely formed the answer, trying to be. Then the drywall behind it bulged violently, like something bigger pressed forward. Mara's blood ran cold. The reflection looked over its shoulder, eyes widening. Not at Mara, not at the room, at whatever was behind it in that impossible dark. It mouthed something silently. A warning, a plea. Faster. Mara's knees buckled as another jolt ripped through her legs. Her femur vibrated beneath the skin. Her knee joint rotated a few degrees in a direction it should never go. Her calves tightened like rope pulled to taut. She braced on her hands, panting, hair falling into her face. Double quotes, no dash, no dash, no. The reflection's claws scraped against the drywall, scratching, begging, urging her. Let it through. Her forearm trembled violently. Something inside her was pushing, reshaping, preparing. Her bones hummed like struck metal. Her jaw ached with pressure. Her teeth tingled at the roots. Mara lifted her head and saw her reflections. Golden eyes shift color. Not the warm gold she'd seen before. Now it glowed a deeper, older hue, ancient moonlight, sharpened into instinct. The color of hunger, the color of inheritance, the color of inevitability. Mara backed up, hands slipping, on the floor. Stop. Please stop. Her breath fogged the air. Her hearing sharpened until she could hear the radiator ticking like a heartbeat train slithering down the window, glassem thing dripping behind the wall. Reflections, ragged breathing, and her own heartbeat. Slower, heavier, deeper, not human, not anymore. Her reflection's voice cracked. It's starting here too. Then the crack in the drywall split upward in a jagged line like lightning. The reflection jerked its head toward the hall. Mirror behind Mara, the one she hadn't realized she was kneeling in front of. Her blood iced over. The hall mirror's surface rippled, just once, like something beneath the glass exhaled. Mara didn't turn. She couldn't. Her reflection whispered, "Run." Mara finally moved to stand, but her legs failed. Her muscles weren't hers anymore. Her body wasn't following her will. It was following the change. She fell. Her hand hit the floor. But claws hit first. Long black, hooked. Her reflection stared at her, horrified. Not because it didn't expect this. Because it did. Because she was too late. The claws jutting from Mara's fingertips weren't delicate, weren't tentative. They were fully formed, as if they had always been there, waiting for the skin to thin enough to break through. Her breath came out in sharp, feral bursts. The air tasted different, metallic, electric, like a storm waiting to break open. Mara, a reflection rasped from inside the wall. Listen to me. But listening was getting harder. Her hearing had sharpened too much, turning the world into layers of unbearable detail. Rain became hail, distant footsteps became thunder. Her own heartbeat became a drum inside her skull. The closet door behind her rattled as she leaned into it, trying to force herself upright. "Stop," she gasped, choking on her own voice. Stop changing, but the sound that left her throat wasn't fully human. A tremor, a rumble, a growl in its infancy. Her jaw ached again, spreading outward, subtle. Not full breakage yet, but enough for her teeth to feel too large in a space too small. Her reflection's claws punched further through the drywall. Not attacking, reaching. "Mara, you have to move. It's coming through the glass." Her blood froze. She turned her head slowly, painfully toward the hallway mirror. The surface was no longer a simple reflection. The glass pulsed like a living membrane, warping inward with each beat, like something powerful pressed its muzzle against the other side. The glass flexed, the frame creaked. A sound like teeth grinding echoed behind the mirror. Mara backed up until she felt her shoulder blades touch the closet door. Her voice cracked. "Why is this happening? Why can't I stop it?" Her reflection answered with a pain that shook its half-formed face. "Because the wolf doesn't start in your bones. It starts in your shadow." Mara shook her head violently. No, I don't believe this." The sigil on her forearm flared white hot, and she screamed as the heat shot up into her shoulder. Muscles bunched, tendons snapped taut. Her collarbone shifted with a sickening organopop. She fell forward onto her hands. No, onto her claws. The hallway tilted sideways in her vision, her pupils dilating until the world narrowed into sharp, predatory focus. She saw movement in the mirror, not hers, not the reflection she'd lost. Something bigger, something crouched on the other side of the glass. Her reflection shrieked, "Mara, move!" The drywall split further as it shoved its transformed arm outward, trying desperately to reach her. But Mara's legs twitched again, violently, twisting her knee inward at an unnatural angle before snapping. Back straight, her tendons, vibrated, her muscles convulsed. She couldn't stand. Her body was already bowing to the wolf. The mirror groaned as a scent-shaped silhouette pushed against it, stretching the glass like elastic. Mara tried to crawl backward, dragging her forming claws along the floor. "I can't," she sobbed. "I can't." Her reflection snarled, a mix of rage and desperation. "You can, but not backward." The closet door behind Mara thudded, as if something inside had struck it from the other side. Mara froze. A new sound joined the storm. Her own breathing, but doubled. One set from her lungs, the other from the mirror. Slow, heavy, wolf-sized. Her reflection strained against the opening in the wall, forcing more of its shoulder through. Bones cracked, fur bristled, teeth glinted. "More, look at me." She turned, tears streaking down her reddening skin. Her reflection's golden eye locked on hers. "You're turning, but you're turning wrong. Too slow, too spread out, too painful." Mara clenched her jaw, but her jaw clenched back, shifting under its own command. What does that mean?" The mirror shuddered. Glass splintered. The snout-shaped silhouette pushed harder. Her reflection roared, voice splitting between woman and wolf. "It means the mirror is trying to take the transformation first." Mara's heart stopped for a beat. "What?" The reflection clawed desperately at the wall, trying to drag itself free. "You're linked. It's ahead of you in the change. If it completes the shift before you..." The mirror cracked. A spiderweb fracture raced across the glass. "It comes through instead of you." Mara's blood turned to ice. "It wants your shift, Mara. It wants your body." The mirror split down the center, A massive, black-furred claw punched through the glass. Her reflection screamed, "Mara, run now!" But Mara couldn't run. Her bones wouldn't let her. Her legs buckled inward, reshaping one tremor at a time. Her nails blackened, her teeth pushed downward. Her vision sharpened into predator clarity. Her body was surrendering. The wolf was taking her, and the creature in the mirror was trying to beat her to it. The mirror didn't just break, it burst. A concussive pop cracked through the apartment as if the glass had reached its limit. Its purpose, its destiny, and surrendered shards exploded outward like frozen feathers, catching the hallway light in bright slashes as they fell. But the thing that crawled through wasn't shards. It was a hand, no, a paw. Huge, fur thick and dark, claws like polished obsidian, curving inward as if shaped by hunger itself. It gripped the mirror frame, bending it outward like soft metal. Mara's pulse collapsed into instinctual terror. Her reflection shrieked behind her, "Mara, don't let it take your face." But Mara's body wasn't listening. Her bones were stretching again. Her spine pulsed upward beneath her skin like a living serpent. She choked on a cry that sounded disturbingly close to a howl. The creature, emerging from the mirror, shoved its forearm through, sinewed, monstrous, dripping with silvered moonlight, from a world she couldn't see. Then its head pierced the broken surface. A wolf's skull, elongated and primal. But wrong, because its eyes weren't wild. They were hers, or rather, what hers would look like in full shift. Golden and sharpened, luminous with instinct, intelligent with something older than memory. Mara whispered, trembling, "That's me." Her reflection from the wall growled, furious, desperate. "No, that's what you become when you lose control. When the mirror shift chooses for you." The mirror wolf snarled, lips peeling back to reveal teeth the length of her fingers. Not attacking, testing the air between them, claiming space, claiming her. It dragged its body through the mirror, glass bending like liquid to let it pass. The creature was massive, a full werewolf form, perfectly shaped, perfectly whole. Her reflection, still half-formed in the wall, clawed harder at the opening, voice breaking. "Mara, listen. You're not supposed to shift alone. You're supposed to be guided. The reflection is the first stage, not the replacement." Mara dropped to her knees, claws scraping the floor. I don't know what I'm doing." Her ribs expanded outward with a painful crack, crack, crack as her chest reshaped itself at the beast inside. Her breathing deepened, slower, heavier, matching the mirror wolf's, in sync. The creature lowered its head, stalking toward her with terrifying grace, not attacking, inviting. Her reflection roared from inside the wall. "If it touches you, it completes the shift in its image, not yours. Get up." But her muscles were jelly. Her legs shook uncontrollably. Her spine arched upward against her will. The mirror wolf circled her, sniffing her hair, her shoulder, the glowing sigil on her forearm. It rumbled, low, proving Mara's heart thudded painfully. Its breath warmed her neck. She felt her own breath match it, their chests rising together, their pulses sinking. Her reflection screamed, "Mara, you are not its shadow. It is yours." The mirror wolf raised its claws slowly and touched her cheek. The moment its talon met her, skinned her, bones ignited. Her jaw split, her face reshaped, her teeth lengthened. Golden veins erupted across her skin like cracks of molten light. She screamed, but her scream became a howl halfway through. Sound burst from her throat with primal force, shaking dust from the walls. The mirror wolf howled back, not threateningly, but triumphantly, as if welcoming her into its skin. Her reflection pounded the drywall, snarling. No, no, don't merge. You must shift as yourself, or you lose your human mind. Mara's claws dug into the floorboards. Her vision sharpened to a predator's clarity. She saw the Werewolf's muscles, its breath, the condensation on its fur. She saw her own reflection in its eyes, not begging, not warning, just watching. A shadow no longer bound to the glass. The Werewolf lowered its head to hers, pressing foreheads like a ritual. The transformation inside Mara surged. Bones rewriting themselves, muscles thickening, instinct awakening in a blooming storm. Her reflection roared, "Mara, choose your form, not its." The Werewolf growled softly, intimately. A promise, a claim. Mara trembled, torn between the creature before her and the creature she was becoming. Then the floor beneath them cracked. A pulse of ancient energy shot through the apartment. The glowing sigil on her forearm flared bright enough to blind. The Werewolf recoiled, snarling. Her reflection gasped, "Yes, why yes, that's the mark. You were never meant to be claimed. You were meant to be called." Mara screamed as the sigil seared upward into her shoulder, spiraling around her ribs like a burning crescent binding her bones. The Werewolf lunged not to kill her, to bind her, to complete the merge. And Mara now, half-wolf herself, did the unthinkable. She raised her own claws and blocked the shrike. Sparks burst from the impact. Her reflection whispered. She chose herself. The impact of claw against claw rang out like a bell struck deep underground, a resonant, vibrating tone that shook the apartment down to its wiring. Mara's arm trembled from the force. The Werewolf's strike had been powerful enough to break a human bone, but she wasn't human anymore. Not fully, Mara snarled, her voice a fractured hybrid. Part scream, part animal fury, her jaw cracked wider, cheekbones pushing outward, her pupils dilating into predatory crescents. The Werewolf lunged again. This time, instinct moved her body before thought could catch up. She ducked low, claws scraping the floor, and slashed upward. Sparks flew where her talons collided with its furred chest. The Werewolf staggered back a step, not from injury, from surprise. Her reflection inside the wall still half merged with the drywall. Still fighting to free itself, gasped. She's matching it. She's matching the form without merging. Mara growled, surprised at the strength in her throat, the vibration rattling her ribs. But the Werewolf recovered immediately. Its golden eyes narrowed, focused, calculating. It paced slowly around her, shoulders rolling like a storm, building on 4 legs. Its claws clicked softly on the floor like a countdown. Mara mirrored its movement, breath steadying even as the last flickers of her humanity trembled inside her. Her reflection shouted, "Mara, listen. That thing isn't you. It's the wolf you'd be if the curse ran unchecked. It's pure instinct, no restraint, no memory, no soul." The Werewolf snarled at the reflection, lips peeling back in warning. Mara's head whipped toward the sound too fast, predatory fast, and for a split second, she felt the wolf's desire burning inside her veins. Silence the weak one. Break the wall. Finish the shift. She shook her head violently, claws digging into the ruined floorboards. "No, I'm not you. I'm not." The Werewolf lunged. It moved like lightning. Its jaws clamped onto her climbing shoulder, right where the sigil burned brightest beneath her skin. Pain flashed white-hot. Her knees nearly buckled, but when it tried to yank her down, the sigil flared. An explosion of gold light rippled through the apartment. The Werewolf recoiled with a roar of fury and pain. Her reflection shouted, "Yes, the mark rejects it. That's your lineage, your anchor." Mara's breathing roughened. but clarity seeped into her mind. The sigil wasn't just a brand. It was a boundary, a right, a claim. A claim. She rose, staggered but fierce, her transformation settling into something sharper, something intentional. The Werewolf snarled and circled her again, but now she understood something in its posture. This wasn't a hunt. It wasn't even a merge attempt. It was a challenge. Her muscles tightened. Her new senses sharpened. Her claws flexed. Her reflection finally broke her arm free of the drywall, reaching out with a frantic, trembling hand. Mara, you have to choose. Not fight it, not submit to it. Choose the wolf you will become. Mara looked down at her arms, at the claws, at the fur emerging along her wrists, at the golden veins glowing beneath her skin. Then she looked at the Werewolf, hulking, perfect, monstrous, wild. Then she closed her eyes. Inside her chest, beneath the pain, beneath the fear, beneath the cracking bones and burning mark, she felt a rhythm. Not the mirror's, not the wolf's. Her own. Her heartbeat, her breath, her will. When her eyes opened again, they burned bright gold, but the light was hers. She growled low and deliberate. I choose me. The Werewolf lunged faster than before, a blur of fang and fury. Mara met it head-on. Their bodies collided with enough force to rattle the walls. Claws slashed, teeth snapped. Growls ripped the air in animal harmonies. The Werewolf pinned her. She twisted free. She struck its ribs. It raked its claws across her forearm. The sigil flared again, violently. The Werewolf howled in agony and stumbled back. Her reflection shouted, "It can't hold your shape when you reject its claim. You're destabilizing it." The Werewolf roared at the ceiling, a painful, broken sound, its form flickering, like a candle caught in wind. Its fur shimmered, its muscles distorted, its claws dimmed. Mara rose, towering now, more wolf than woman, golden veins tracing luminous patterns across her shifting body. She took one step forward, and her reflection whispered, awestruck, "She's becoming the true form." The Werewolf charged one last time, desperate, feral, knowing it was losing. Mara braced, not in fear, in certainty. Their claws met at the center of the room, and the sigil on her forearm erupted in a shockwave of blinding gold. The Werewolf exploded into fragments of shadow and glass, scattering across the room in streaks of broken moonlight. Silence swallowed the apartment. Mara stood panting, claws dripping with shimmering, fading residue. Her reflection slumped inside the wall, exhausted but smiling. "Mara, you didn't become it." Mara lowered her claws, a voice ragged. Half-wolf whispered, "No." She lifted her head, eyes burning brighter than the wolf she'd fought. "I became me." The apartment went silent after the Werewolf shattered. No breath, no growl, no flicker of the lights. Just stillness, as if the building itself finally exhaled after holding its lungs tight for too long. Mara stood in the center of the room, chest heaving, claws dripping with remnants of shadowy glass that evaporated as they fell. Moonlight slipped through cracked blinds, brushing over her fur, her skin, her barely held together shape. Her reflection, or rather the fractured, half-shifted version of her, slumped halfway out of the wall, exhausted. "Mara," it whispered, voice soft but threaded with pride, "you chose the harder path, the true path." Mara tried to speak, but her jaw ached, bones clicking softly as they fought between human shape and wolf instinct. Her voice came out low, rough, strange. "What am I?" Her reflection smiled, the saddest, truest smile a creature could give while half-trapped in drywall. Not cursed, not anymore. The sigil on Mara's forearm pulsed softer now, no longer searing her, but guiding her. Gold light spiraled beneath her skin like a comet winding down. "You're an echo, Wolf," it murmured. "A lineage that doesn't transform from flesh first, but from reflection." Mara swallowed, or tried to. Her throat was still thick, vocal cords shifting sluggishly. That thing, the wolf, it wanted to replace me. Her reflections, golden eye dimmed. It wanted to be you, because echo wolves don't gain full form until one truth is understood. Mara blinked slowly, fur rippling along her cheek. "And what's that?" Her reflection lifted one hand, furred clawed, trembling, and pressed its palm against the cracked drywall. "That the wolf is not the monster in the glass." It paused. "You are." Mara's breath, stuttered. In realization, because the mirror wolf had not been some random entity, some outside force. It had been the part of her that took the path of least resistance, the instinct that wanted control without the weight of choice. Her reflection continued, voice softening. "The mirror version of you is who you'd be if you surrendered, if you let instinct drive without anchor, if you gave up your name." Mara lowered her gaze to her claws, sharp, perfect, terrifying, and yet they listened when she willed them to retract. Even if they twitched with impatience, she flexed her fingers. The fur along the back shimmered, but didn't disappear. "I can't go back to normal, can I?" Her reflection's expression turned mournful. "No echo wolf ever does, but you can go forward." Mara took a slow breath. Her lungs felt enormous. The scents of the apartment were painfully clear. Dust, rain, electricity, the metallic temps of moonlight still clinging to the broken mirror frame. Outside, something howled long, low. Familiar, her blood chilled. Her reflection's ears twitched. They heard the surge. It whispered. The pack. The ones who shift cleanly, and the ones who don't. Mara stepped back instinctively, spine arching in a defensive curve. "There's more." Her reflection laughed softly, a tired, broken laugh. "There are many more. Echo wolves, mirror-born, bone-born, curse-born. They all answer one rule." The sigil on Mara's forearm glowed again, as if waking to the words. The first one to shift calls the others. Mara's stomach dropped. "You mean I?" The reflection nodded slowly. "You didn't just defeat the mirror wolf, Mara." It breathed shallowly, its form flickering like a dying ember. "You announced yourself." A shudder ran through the apartment as another howl echoed closer. "Not 1, 3. Mara's instincts snarled awake. Her claws extended. Her pupils thinned into predatory slits. Her reflection's gaze softened with something almost maternal. "You're not alone anymore. But you're not safe, either." Mara took a step toward the window, the moon catching the side of her half-full face. "I won't run." The reflection smiled faintly. "You won't have to. They're coming to see which version of you survived." Mara turned back, but the reflection had begun to fade, sinking back into the wall, the cracks sealing behind it. "Wait. Don't leave me." It paused, just long enough to whisper, "You're not losing me. I'm part of you. For as long as you choose to stay yourself." And then it was gone. The apartment fell silent again. But the silence didn't last. Footsteps, too many to count, moved on the roof. Claws scraped the fire escape. The hallway beyond her door filled with the sound of heavy breathing, low growls, shifting weight. Mara stepped forward, a silhouette caught in the moonlight. Half woman, half wolf, fully claimed by neither. Her voice rumbled in a whisper that wasn't human anymore. "Come and see." The doorknob turned. The screen went black.